Hey, welcome everyone to Wizards Outlook, joined again by Cardell Dudley Jr. We got Raymond Lyons here with us. I'm Wilson Tarbett Jr. The Washington Wizards. We see CJ McCollum goes off for 46 as they snap their slide with a 132 to 113 win over the Atlanta Hawks. I want to share a couple things with you guys before we get to Cardell, and he tells us what he saw from the arena. Wizards guard CJ McCollum connected on his 10th three-pointer with his last make, tying Trevor Ariza. That happened February 12th, 2014 at Houston for the most threes in a single game franchise history. Another thing that happened early in this game, they opened the game shooting 8 of 8 from deep, doing it for the first time in franchise history per Sports Radar. This marks the longest such streak to start a game by any team this season. And it's the longest streak since Toronto also made their first 8 threes October 28th, 2023. But Cardell, you talked about the boxes that they needed to check going into this one. What happened inside Capital One Arena tonight that led to them on the being back at the winning column for the first time in 15 games?
Made shots, made a lot of shots, made a lot of big time shots, especially in that first quarter. And man, sometimes the best defense is a strong offense, and their offense is dumb strong. Hulk just took the serum type strong, like they was bombing away. Yeah, and it was. I mean, the Hawks were a step slow. You could tell they came out sluggish, but CJ McCollum, he hit a couple threes and he started feeling it. You know how they take heat check shots? He hit his. He hit the third and he hit the fourth one. And Kispert joined in and 45 and a quarter. But they was hitting shots and it deflated the Hawks to the point where the Hawks started pressing on offense, which is not their game. That's not what they do. They suffocate you defensively and let that feed into their offense, but they was getting lit up from everywhere. So they started pressing, and that fed right into the Wizards' hands where the Wizards had them. Now all they had to do was just maintain. Now the Hawks made a run, second, third quarters where they kind of got it to, about 13, 12. Look like, all right, Wizards, you got to be careful. This would be a bad loss, but then the Wizards were, second half, Saw woke up and all that, and CJ kept going. They would get the lead back up in the 20s, and they just pretty much carried that throughout the game. But that first quarter set the tone. The first quarter, they shot 65% from the field, 72% from deep, 77% from the line, but they were 7 to 9. They only turned the ball over 3 times. Meanwhile, they held the Hawks to 32% shooting from the field and 21% shooting from deep, man. Corey Kispert had 16 points in that quarter, 4 or 5 from deep, and CJ McCollum had 12. Obviously, they both combined to go 8 and 9 from deep. That's a tough way to try to start out a game and try to build on that, man. And then also, don't underestimate the fact of you didn't want to be that team that lost to the Wizards. So that played a factor in it too. It's just has you like, oh man, they're on fire. We can't beat this, and then you press, and then that don't work. You're easily deflated, and that's what you saw with the Hawks, man. Look, man, it was just one of those nights where everything the Wizards threw up and went in. The rim looked like an ocean. It seemed like to everybody, man. Like think about it, Jalen Johnson came in. He was their leading scorer. He only had 7 points. Like he wasn't even trying to be aggressive. That's what I even mean by deflated. You can look at their body language. It's just like what the hell. And in a full quarter, they was within striking distance, like down 16, 15. Quinn Snyder went on there and just sat down and just chilled. He knew what time it was, and that's when you knew the game was over. Even early in the he knew what it was, man. So yeah, man, they threw a hell of a haymaker in the first quarter, and the Hawks were wobbly for the rest of the game, man. And then they delivered a knockout blow in the fourth quarter, and that was all she wrote, man. They were trying to get CJ 50, couldn't get it, and they got him up out of there before, to get testing and escalate and stuff like that, which is, not what they need. Hell of a win over, a Hawks team that's been thriving without Trae Young. They're holding it down, man. So the question is, can they keep this going? Because now you're capable. You know what I mean? And one thing I noticed is that last point. They started the game with different personnel. I know Keyshawn wasn't there, but they started with the vets. With Koulibaly, Chris, Alex, McCollum, Kispert, Obviously Middleton, you know, and they had good chemistry, man. Just even defensively, the rotations, nothing came easy for the Hawks, and they executed well on offense, man. So, um, that I'm not saying that'd be the starting lineup moving forward. Who knows, but that's a lineup that I feel they should be confident to go to. Now that guys not in minutes restriction, they got a rhythm. You know, that's a lineup they can go to try to keep things afloat, so to speak, if they get in trouble in games moving forward. But all in all, man, hell of a win.
Right, your thoughts on them getting back on the winning side of things?
Yeah, man, they put in the cheat code before the game because they could not miss. And like Carl said, if a team is hitting like that, then you on the receiving end, you're gonna try to get it all back in one play, and that just leads to quick shots, bad possessions, and you giving the team that can't miss the ball back. And that's basically what happened, man. And the Wizards, their offense put them in a better position to play defense because the Hawks actually had to take the ball out the net instead of running out on fast breaks off turnovers and bad shots. So yeah, man, they just whooped their ass, plain and simple. You know, they're not gonna shoot like this every game, but they were getting good shots, and they just happened to make a whole lot of them. If you continue to get quality looks, then you should be in a pretty good position. Like, I'm not saying you want to shoot 60% from the field every game, but if you continue to move the ball, be disciplined on offense, then you should still be able to produce at a high level, and then just keep up the defensive intensity as well. Because those times when you're not shooting 60%, that defense will sustain you. It's the way you get your foot and then your offense gets back on track. So yeah, man, good, hell of a win. Way to break the skid.
Yeah, I'm just happy that we're not looking at a third consecutive 16-game losing streak. But like you guys said, Cardell, I do think that's something interesting to keep out of going forward to see how much they go back to kind of that veteran laden lineup, because I think also that some of the things we've seen at times, having folks that have more experience on NBA courts often does help. And obviously with the rotations at the end of the floor, we know how bad it's been defensively. That could go a long way too, where people are just disciplined and people being where they're supposed to be. You guys would talk at length about the trust or the lack thereof on the end of the floor. If you got 5 people that trust that the other 4 are gonna be where they're supposed to be, it goes a long way. Yeah, you're not gonna be the top 10 defense or anything like that, but it leads to more stops. We saw them, several times get in passing lanes, get out in transition, and honestly just look efficient in transition at that. But obviously, hell of a night from CJ. But yeah, I'm just happy that whole thing was over. We were 2 games away from me pulling out that tweet I found the other day because I bookmarked it because it bothered me deeply. They were potentially about to add another 16-game losing streak to that horrible tweet. That said, up next they have Indiana on the road. I think that's right after Thanksgiving, so we'll see what that looks like. But put this up on the screen for you guys. Player of the game, again, it's on the screen. I think we all know who it is, but
Mr. McCollum. Mr. McCollum, the professional, ultimate professional.
All right, well, that was quick. X Factor for you guys. Also, be a seamless.
Alex Sarr gonna get the nod because he had the monster double in 11-15. Blocking shots left and right. I says he finished with 2. Seemed like he had about 4 or 5. But Middleton, he was working on the triple double in that game. 10 points, game high, 12 assists, 7 rebounds. Like, he was cooking low key, man, and that just shows you the know-how. Now, obviously, I'm pretty sure quite a few of those came off CJ just finding him, but whatever, he found him when he was open and in rhythm, and he knocked down the shot, and that's what it's about, man. But yeah, definitely saw him, man. He was a monster.
Right on X Factor.
Yeah, man, Sarr, Middleton, and Kispert kind of had their moments at different points. Kispert, the way he came out shooting in the first quarter, yeah, they just kind of got things going and set the tone. But yeah, I got to split it between Middleton and Sarr just for both of their overall impact in several areas of the game.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm probably leaning Kispert. I thought, I know they lost the game in Chicago, but I thought he was really good in that first start. That was his first start of the season. He came out strong in that Chicago game. And then, Cardell, to your point, you said he had 16 in the first quarter. Again, we saw what type of time CJ came out on. But for Corey to kick in 16 in that quarter too, I feel like obviously that played a big role in some of that helping deflate the Hawks. One thing, CJ gets going, Corey comes off a rip like that goes a long way. And for Sideshow, how often do we get to pick the Wizards player or X Factor? The Wizards X Factor play of the game? Every episode of Wizards Outlook, we have that towards the end. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, your votes on X Factor and player of the game. But did you guys have anything else you guys wanted to add to this one, or just want to just bask in the fact that that losing streak is over, and at least for a couple nights?
No, man. That's it. It's a wrap. So I'll see if they can continue it.
Hey, man, that works for me. We'll check in with you guys Friday evening after they take on Indiana. Have a good one.